in the career of Roman Reigns. You heard it in that package. I have to win.
The WWE Universe, once a predictable stage of rivalry and triumph, has been flipped upside down. What fans witnessed wasn't just a return of former champions. No, it wasn't a reunion either. This was something darker, something far more dangerous than anyone could have predicted. An awakening. For years, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and CM Punk were mere shadows of a bygone era, their paths twisted by betrayal, disappointment, and darkness. But tonight, the time for vengeance had come. Together, they didn't form the Shield. They were something far worse. They had become the Hounds of Destruction. An ominous return. The evening began innocently enough, the arena alive with excitement, as Seth Rollins entered the ring. His usual bravado was present as he stood, gripping the microphone, ready to give yet another speech to the fans. But the moment he spoke, something changed. The lights flickered, like the arena was being possessed by something ancient and malevolent. The screens around the arena went black, static twisting across the monitors. A haunting echo filled the speakers, the long-forgotten glitch of a legacy that once dominated WWE. The crowd fell silent, each fan sensing something massive was about to unfold. This wasn't nostalgia. This wasn't some clever marketing stunt. This was something real. Then it hit. The familiar distorted static. The sounds of memories buried deep in the minds of the fans who remembered the Shield's rise and fall. Seth's microphone trembled in his grip as the figures emerged from the darkness. Not two, not three, but one unified force. Dean Ambrose, wild-eyed and crazed, his expression feral as if the years of exile had broken him. Roman Reigns, as calm as ever, but radiating a quiet fury that threatened to consume everything in his path. And then there was CM Punk, the smirk on his face wider than ever, the satisfaction of a man who had been waiting for this moment to unfold. The unforgiving Assault Ambrose was the first to strike. He slid into the ring, steel chair in hand, and with the viciousness of a man who had been waiting for this moment, he cracked it across Seth's back. The sound was deafening, an echo that filled the arena and reverberated in the bones of everyone in attendance. Seth dropped to his knees, his body racked with pain, but there was no escape. Roman Reigns charged forward, a beast in human form, and launched himself at Seth with a devastating spear, driving him through the barricade. The same barricade where their brotherhood had once shattered 10 years earlier. The symbolism was chilling, the message clear. This wasn't just an attack, it was a statement. A legacy was being burned to the ground, but CM Punk wasn't interested in the brutality. No, he had something else in mind. He grabbed a microphone but didn't speak a word. Instead, he walked slowly toward Seth, pulling him back into the ring like a hunter dragging his kill. Then, with a sickening calm, Punk handed Ambrose a Sharpie. Ambrose, the lunatic who had once been their most unpredictable member, kneeled beside Seth's battered body and carefully wrote one word across his forehead: traitor. It wasn't just a message, it wasn't just a brand. It was a reminder that the destruction of the Shield had never been forgotten, and the price for that destruction was about to be paid in full. The final act of carnage. Once the mark had been made, the three men circled Seth once more. The arena fell deathly silent. The crowd, still stunned by the brutal assault, didn't know how to react. They could only watch, paralyzed, as the three Hounds of Destruction prepared to deliver the final blow. Seth, bloodied and battered, didn't stand a chance, as the trio lifted him into the air. With unrelenting force, they delivered the most devastating triple power bomb through the announcer's table since 2014. The table exploded in a violent burst of splinters and shattered monitors. Seth's body crumpled like a rag doll, broken, a shell of the man who had once been at the top of the WWE universe. The arena was silent, except for the heavy breathing of Dean Ambrose, who stood over Seth's shattered body. His smile was cracked, twisted, but there was a palpable sense of satisfaction in the air. He picked up the microphone, his voice barely audible but clear enough to send chills through the audience. Chaos unleashed. Backstage, pandemonium erupted. Officials scrambled in every direction, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Some superstars refused to go out for their scheduled matches, while others rushed to pack their bags. Even Paul Heyman, usually calm and collected in the face of danger, had left the arena without a word. No interviews, no commentary, just fear. This was no simple revenge plot. This wasn't about redemption or reclaiming lost glory. What had just occurred was far deeper than that. This was psychological warfare, emotional carnage, a twisting of everything that had once been pure. The Shield, once a symbol of unity, trust, and purpose, had long since crumbled. What remained was a cursed legacy, reanimated by three of the most dangerous men in wrestling history. They weren't there to restore order. They were there to burn everything down. CM Punk's evolution. Then there was CM Punk, a man who had been absent from WWE for years. The voice of the voiceless had returned, but not as the man fans once knew. Punk had evolved. He had become the architect of this nightmare. What was once his voice was now a tool for manipulation. He no longer cared about fans or the title. His hatred ran deeper than that. It was a hatred born from abandonment, from watching the industry move on without him, from seeing Seth Rollins rise while he was left in the dust. Punk wasn't here to compete. He was here to destroy everything that had built WWE into what it was today. He wasn't just attacking Seth Rollins. He was attacking the entire industry, a place he no longer recognized, a place that had left him behind. And at the heart of it all, Seth Rollins was the target. Punk's plan had been set into motion long before the lights had cut out. Roman Reigns, the final judge. And then there was Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the most dominant force in modern wrestling. But this wasn't about titles anymore. This wasn't about championships or accolades. This was about legacy. Roman had always seen himself as more than just a champion. He saw himself as the final judge of WWE, the last bastion of power in a world that was filled with corruption. To Roman, Seth Rollins was that corruption. He was the embodiment of everything that had gone wrong with WWE. And Roman was the one who would rid the company of that corruption once and for all. The Shield had once been a unit based on unity and trust. But now, in Roman's eyes, Seth was a symbol of everything he hated. The betrayal, the lies, the pain. All of it came crashing down on Rollins in one brutal final act. A world consumed by chaos. The synergy between these three was terrifying. There was no need for words, no need for grand speeches. They didn't pose for the crowd. They didn't make demands. They simply acted. They were predators. They were hounds. And the WWE universe was left to make sense of it all. But there was no sense to be made. This wasn't a faction. This wasn't a team. This was a reckoning. Backstage reports hinted at more than just an attack. Technicians had claimed their headsets had glitched, and power had been cut at the precise moment the chaos erupted. Some even said they saw shadows moving behind the Titantron when no one was supposed to be there. There was something unexplainable about what had just transpired. It was as though the WWE universe itself had reacted to their return, or worse, had been consumed by it. Dean Ambrose stood over Seth's broken body, his voice now barely audible as he whispered once again into the microphone. The hounds of justice always get their prey. Then, like a pack of wolves, they disappeared into the crowd, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But this wasn't the Shield of old. This wasn't about brotherhood. This was about something far darker, something far more terrifying. The hounds of destruction are here. Dean Ambrose was no longer John Moxley. He had become the unhinged force of chaos from 2013, and now his madness had been refined, perfected by years of betrayal and pain. CM Punk had evolved from the voice of the voiceless to the architect of destruction, manipulating everything in his path with a ruthless precision. And Roman was no longer just the tribal chief. He was the final judge of WWE, and he would not stop until everything that he deemed corrupt was burned to the ground. Seth Rollins was just the beginning. The hounds of destruction had been unleashed, and WWE would never be the same again. No one was safe. Not Seth. Not Cody. Not anyone. The message was clear. The curse of the Shield had been reawakened, and it would consume everything in its path. The hounds were on the hunt, and WWE was their prey.